And wait for it, North Carolina internet. What is going on, everybody? Justin Thomas here with Robert from In Deep Geek, and we are going to be talking Game of Thrones Season 8. We will be taking, it's an open forum, guys, but we do have a little bit of a focus on the Golden Company and in what potential role they're going to play. Is it going to be just kind of a wink to us book readers, or is it going to be a wink and a nod, or is it going to be something more? And there's a lot of theories that could come from that, and very interesting topic. And if you have anything intelligent and interesting to talk about with Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, really anything, my go-to is the man I'm going to introduce, Robert from In Deep Geek. Say hello to everybody and let them know where they can find you if they haven't. And shame on you guys if you haven't already.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here, as always. Yes, my channel is In Deep Geek. If you want to get into A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, just trying to get beneath the surface and try and understand things a little bit deeper, then perhaps check out that channel. I've also got a second channel I've just launched, which is an audiobook channel, and it's me narrating the best science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction stories ever written. At the moment, we're working our way through War of the Worlds. If you're interested in that, it's called The Well-Told Tale. So those are my two channels, but I'm really keen and excited to be talking about the Golden Company today.
And there is my audio. And guys, let me know, because this is a new microphone, if I'm coming in too low or too loud. So yeah, the Golden Company. It's I love that they're injecting this into our story. There's been little bits and pieces of the young Griff and Griff storyline that have been injected in our series throughout. The Golden Company, I believe, has been mentioned 2 or 3 times. Jorah mentions that I think he mentions he served with them when he first went over to Essos. And I believe that Davos brings up the Golden Company when he is trying to convince Stannis that we're talking about the series, the show. Because we can never assume when we're watching Game of Thrones that that us hardcore fans are the demographic, because we are their marketing tool. We were their demographic for season 1 and 2, and then we convinced everybody in the world we knew, and we bought microphones and webcams and marketed the hell out of the show. Now we have to assume that, you know, if it's not mentioned in the show, it's not going to really apply, because it's just how TV works. So I think it's only been mentioned 2 at the max, 3 times, but they have injected some of these plot points like grayscale. And, you know, Varys gives a very similar speech, which kind of speaks to the whole Aegon storyline in general, and kind of one of the major themes of Song of Ice and Fire, which is, you know, they're moving forward towards a more rule by, you know, like ability, not by blood. So he gives that kind of whole speech, but he's talking about Dany, but in the books, of course, he's talking about young Griff, possibly Aegon Targaryen. I will do a just quick history of the Golden Company. They were founded by, I believe, Aegar Rivers, and he was one of the bastards of Aegon IV. Aegon the Unworthy, I believe he was called. And it is a actual real issue throughout history of kings legitimizing bastards and not naming a proper heir, or, you know, being very conclusive about it, and it causes issues. And that anytime you hear Blackfire Rebellion, it is the Blackfires, which are the bastard side of the Targaryen. They are the exiles, and they started the Golden Company. It's not clear on if Bittersteel, Aegar Rivers, started the Golden Company before. I know he served in the Second Sons, which is very similar to the Golden Company, first, and I think he started the Golden Company. But and Robert, I want your opinion on this. My view on the Golden Company has always been they hold themselves to a higher. They don't want to just say they're sellswords, but in Essos, being a knight, this kind of ties into our last live stream. In Essos is even worth less of a shit than it is in Westeros, because they just don't have standing armies over there. They have a lot of militias and a lot of slave armies. So there's constantly a need for a sword, but they don't really, especially these Westerosi knights, don't want to call themselves sellswords, and they want to elevate themselves a little bit higher. And I also believe they started the Golden Company so they could have control over what happened to, you know, because at one point there was quite a few Blackfires over there. So I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I get from the lore is that Bittersteel definitely had an agenda to keep his kin alive, and he wanted to run things. And again, he wanted to, you know, kind of have a standing army and make money so he could live, but wanted to be in control of it and say, we're not like the rest of them. But the Second Sons are not too far off from the Golden Company. The Second Sons are the Second Sons. They are not the heirs. They are the exiles. They are the, you know, the tossed to the side warriors. So do you view the Golden Company as a more elite force as far as the way they conduct themselves, in the way that they're, you know, the way that they have structured their organization compared to, say, the Second Sons or any of the Yunkai or the Tiger Coats or any of the other crazy sellsword companies and Essos?
Yeah, they are. I mean, the whole setup of them to start with, this was Aegor Rivers Bittersteel when he set them up. It was because he saw all of these exiles coming across from Westeros after the Blackfire, the first Blackfire rebellion, and he saw all of these knights and people who had left Westeros, and they were obviously looking for work, and they were going off to join up with these other sellsword companies. And so he thought, you know what, I can set one up myself with all of these and create an elite army, as it were. And the idea was that this was to have an army that he still kept right up to his dying day. He kept to this idea that the Blackfires would be able to go back over and retake Westeros. And so he wanted to have this standing army, in effect, the Golden Company, who would be able to do that. So that was his whole idea, and he set it up, yes, very much on these kind of knightly, organized ways. And so it is a proper army, not just a group of people coming together. And as well as being incredibly organized, they also try and make sure they have this reputation as being honorable, always sticking to what their word is, never breaking a contract, things like that. And they also have because they have got the money, they can charge higher rates, and they can get the best equipment. So there are rumors of elephants, for example, and things like this as well. So it is not just a sellsword company; it is effectively an army, and it has been run like an army for over a century.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they really, stick to the whole, we honor, you know, every commission, whatever you want to call it, you know, we take, because a sellsword, like Bronn so brilliantly says, is he's a sellsword. He sells his sword. So, you know, that it definitely implies that if somebody comes along with a little bit more stags, you know, in their pouch, then that sword's going to be sold to the highest bidder. They, you know, whether or not it's completely, because this is history in reverse, you know, we're looking back, you know, whether or not it's all about honor or not, it's a good business model. And it is all, I think, the closest thing that he could really get to a standing army over there, because again, they're lords without pretty much like all the benefits of a lordship. They don't have you know, a stronghold, really, you know, they don't have a lot of money. They had some money for a while, but they really do need to sell their swords. They are sellswords. But he wants to make sure that he has a competent army and an army people are going to trust. And so because they want to get home, and that's what I'm getting at. So Cersei is bringing them over to help her, and to help her do what? Screw over Jon, Dany, or bite the, you know, the dead. And I in the books, of course, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, you know, they are coming over with young Griff and all that. And I believe Tyrion says to them, you know, like, what are you doing? You know, if he is a Targaryen, what are you doing, you know, supporting them? Because, you know, why aren't you supporting a Blackfire? And they bring up that, you know, I think it's after Maegor dies that the male line is dead anyway. So, you know, essentially what it comes down to, I think all bullshit aside, is they just want to get home. They want to get back to Westeros. And whether it's backing a Targaryen bastard or from the male line, or it doesn't matter, you know, they just want to get home. But they do have some honor. So I can't really see them sticking with Cersei per se, because if they want to get home and they see what's gonna happen to home if they go along with Cersei's crap plan, you know, that defies everything. It doesn't matter. And there's also the possibility of, and this is where I get into like, is this more of like just like a nod to us book readers? It's like, oh, cool, Golden Company. Because like I said, the only thing in the series that's been said is that, oh, they've never, you know, broken a contract, which in the books, they never break one until they break with the young Kai for young Griff. And I really see that as more opportunistic, you know, like, which is fine. They see it as, hey, this is something we can really rally our people behind. It goes along with our motto. It's like, if it's our business model, so we're going to go with it. They don't really care, you know, if he's a Blackfire pretender, if he's really Aegon Targaryen or not. So it's like, but you can also look at it as, are they going to try to support, per se, Dany? Are they going to try to support the Aegon in our show because they named Jon Aegon? Is that a little, is like, are we getting more than just a little nod? Are we getting some winks here with the name Aegon and so forth? And then also, if you really want to go for a Targaryen bastard, especially one that's likely to end up at Storm's End, where they're likely to land, let's talk about Gendry. I mean, I don't want to get crackpot theory here, and we only got 6 episodes to finish the whole story. But, you know, I'm kind of excited about it because there's a lot of possibilities for them to actually organically add some cool book stuff in with the allotted time, because it really wouldn't take that much. I don't, first off, I guess, do you think they're going to stick with Cersei?
Well, okay, if I can take a step back from this one, the first thing I just want to pick up on is this idea of them wanting to go back home. We have to remember that when they were set up, yes, these were exiles, but they were set up a century ago. So the people who are members of it at the moment are either the descendants of them, so 2-3 generations later, or they're other people who have just joined up over time. They are people who have been born and grown up in Essos. So yes, it's part of the DNA to eventually be going back, but it is not a personal thing for each and every member of the Golden Company. This isn't a thing that they're specifically wanting to go back home. Their home is Essos as individuals. So the question is, and I think you're very right to separate out the book and the show here. The question is, what is going to happen on the show? Because in the book, they are very much tied in with this, the pretender who's saying, the young Griff who's saying he's Aegon. Now, that whole storyline isn't there. They've not mentioned the Blackfires. Whenever they've mentioned the Golden Company, they've talked about, you know, how honorable they are and how good fighters they are and things like that. They've not mentioned any of their history at all. I think that it's too late for them to try and dig into this. So I think any of this idea about the Golden Company having other sort of ulterior motives in the show is not going to happen. They're just not going to big that one up. They're not going to go betray somebody and then someone afterwards go, oh yeah, that's obvious because of the Blackfire Rebellion. We didn't mention about the Blackfire Rebellion, but they're not going to give this whole bit of background. So I think on the show, they are effectively going to be a sellsword company, a very expensive and very high quality army that is brought across without all of their backstory. They might give a few nods to it, but that's not going to be the main driving force in it. So
I just interrupt for 1 second, Robert? When you came on, you didn't say you were going to shit all over my parade. I mean, that's fine. I mean, continue on. No, I'm fucking with you. And I just wanted to say really quick, and I'm sorry, but thank you to James for the super chat here. Just telling everybody to support us and asking the question I asked about Cersei and all that. And obviously just messing with you, man. But continue on. I'm taking it quite well. No, thank you, James.
Yeah, well, thanks, James, for the super chat. And guys, please, Justin is one of my favorite people in this community, and always very pleased to see him getting support, or as much support as he possibly can through this, and yeah, over on Twitter and everywhere. But I digress. Yeah, so I'm just saying the truth as I see it, Justin. You know, I'll just say what my view is. So I think that they are largely in the show going to just be an army. I can't see that they're going to have this whole background going on. So the question that James is saying is, will they have a contract for somebody else? I don't think that's likely because I don't think there's anyone else who's already previously signed a contract with them. I can't see who that might have been. Theoretically, Stannis was thinking about that kind of thing. You talked about that when Davos was suggesting it, but we've seen how much money it takes to hire them. Nobody's been throwing that kind of money around recently, so I can't see that they've got a previous contract with somebody else. The use I think they're going to have to start with is going to be doing whatever Cersei's nefarious plan is in the first couple of episodes, which is probably just going to be securing the South. So I imagine that we'll see them having come over and then securing the South for her. Then after that, the question comes, are they going to be seeing what's actually happening? And like many other people, Jamie, for example, are they going to go, actually, there's a bigger thing going on here that we need to be dealing with? And I think the way that the show works is that they're not going to deal with them as an amorphous mass. It's whether or not they bring out a character as the leader of them. The Harry Strickland is the name of their current leader in the books. Are they actually going to have that person so that we can see them having some kind of a journey of understanding what's going on? If they don't have that kind of named character, I see them just as generic soldiers, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and very true, because what they are is what they've been established, and this is something I preach nonstop, is you have to just go by what the show says. But so it's been established that they are honorable and they've never broken a contract. So what it comes down to is Cersei's so evil that she forces them to break this, their code of honor. Is this truly, because the biggest contract is, it's kind of like, I don't know verbatim, but what Beric Dondarrion says to Jon, about the, living in the dead, that's the contract right there. So I could see something like that. I mean, there could be a little line of exposition at the very end thrown in, like when they're sitting there, and he could be like, well, like maybe they just end up at some stronghold like Storm's End, and maybe Gendry ends up there, or so and so, and they just say a little something about how, hey, they originally were formed to try to come back and supporting a illegitimate Targaryen, so an illegitimate son, and so maybe they could tie it in like that. I think that, they could not even say it, and it's still kind of a nod if they back one of them. I do want to say that in the books, again, this is just the books, but they do, and I think it is, like you said, like more in spirit, but the exact quote is, Tyrion says, "How did you convince the Golden Company to take up the cause of our sweet queen when they have spent so much of their history fighting against the Targaryens?" And then Illyrio says, "Black or red, a dragon is still a dragon. When Meleys the monstrous died upon the stepstones, it was the end of the male line of the House Blackfyre. And Daenerys will give the exiles what Bittersteel and the Blackfyres never could. She will take them home." So, I mean, but that's also Illyrio romanticizing it as well, who I believe Illyrio was a sellsword at one point, right?
Yeah, he was. Actually, a video I did last week, or maybe even just a few days ago, which was about where Dark Sister and Blackfyre, the two Targaryen swords, are. That I dug into a lot of this. I think Illyrio in the books, on the show, he's been quite a peripheral character, but in the books, he's the mastermind who is, I think, holding up this idea of bringing the Blackfyres back to power. So I think that he is the person who, spoiler alert for my own video, I think he currently holds Blackfyre, this sword which Bittersteel had, the first commander of the Golden Company. And I think that he is the one who paid the Golden Company to go over to Westeros. So I think he's right at the heart of that, and I think that is actually a Blackfyre conspiracy or plan rather than a Targaryen one, which is why he says that red or black dragon, it doesn't make a difference. He sees the same as the same.
Yeah, and like you said about if we don't have, because let's face it, the commander as of right now in the books, Harry Strickland, I believe, what is his nickname? Harry the something. It's not great. He's not a very he's not a very exciting guy. He was like the accountant for the Golden Company before this, and John Connington comes over and believe just misses the opportunity to take it over. But Harry Strickland, my point is not really like the most exciting character to put on screen. They have hired a actor. I don't know if anybody in the chat or you have watched Last Kingdom, and the guy that plays Ragnar the Younger, he is a I think from he's from Scandinavia, somewhere around there, Denmark or whatever. He's Norwegian, and he is going to be playing, it looks like, whoever the commander is of the Blackfires. The role is totally by the specs for what the character is going to be doing. It totally fits the build, and he's pretty charismatic. He's one of the main characters. He's Ragnar the Younger in that series, which is a series George R.R. Martin constantly tweets about when Game of Thrones is on. So I mean, I don't think that they would put old Harry in there, because he's just not, without the rest of the storyline. As we're going with just the show, we just have a very honorable, badass company. Harry's not the most exciting guy, like I said, so I don't think they would I mean, you could cast, like, I don't know, like whoever, what's his name that played Everybody Loves Raymond. You could cast that, I mean, he's just a mundane, very, very dull man. I mean, he was the accountant for them. So and John Connington doesn't like him at all. I forget his nickname, but it's something terrible as well. But anyways, yeah, I think they did have a younger heroic character that will be leading them. And it all comes down to another argument here is, well, how much can they really turn the tide? Okay, if we look at it as they do stick with Cersei. And a lot of people are bringing up war elephants and all this. I believe that every knight has 3 horses. They're supposed to have so many war elephants. I will say, just as a history buff and kind of a dick, that war elephants are just highly romanticized and were not that effective from all the proof we have. And they usually just killed their own people. And I don't think against a Night King who can spear a dragon out of the sky, a slow-moving elephant is going to be the best defense to roll the army of the dead. Or anything, the Romans actually, a legion of Romans killed a whole bunch of war elephants just using axes. But I mean, do you think that they are such an elite force that, let's just say they stick with Cersei, and we're assuming that Jaime doesn't, I think he's going to stop in the Riverlands, which this is a stream with me, so there's like an 8-point question here. Do you think that the Golden Company, if they do stick with Cersei because they stick to the guns and they do what's right, and they do end up, let's just say that they defeat the Night King in the north. I kind of foresee that happening, and then they have to deal with Cersei. But they have to deal with Cersei and the Golden Company. Are they a formidable force? I believe they're 20,000 strong. Do you see them as being like a game changer?
Yes, but all of these things with military forces, I think we got into this actually on the last time I was on this stream with you. It really depends on the context of the battle. So if you're in on a big plain, then they are about as useful as the Lannister soldiers were against a dragon and the Dothraki. It's all about what their strengths are. If you're there wanting just a general all-round fighting force, they are as good as it gets. So they haven't got any of those specific specializations, but they have got lots of things that they can bring to it. So they have got archers, they have got the cavalry, they've got the strong infantry. They are a well-rounded army. So the question is, what is Cersei going to actually be using them for? As I say, I think she's going to, first of all, she's going to be claiming all of the south, making sure that all of that is hers. And then I suspect it's a matter of, her plan seems to be, let the White Walkers and Dany and Jon fight each other and destroy each other's armies, and then she will be there with a strong force waiting for them, having dug in. So that appears to be her plan at the moment. And you're saying it's a stupid plan. It clearly is a stupid plan, but it's as sensible an idea in her position if she wants to be this supreme controller of all of the Seven Kingdoms. That's the only way that she's going to do it, and it's a sensible approach to try and claim the ground, get the good castles, because King's Landing, the Red Keep it's good, but it's not like the strongest castle there. If she can get some of the really good and strong castles to actually gain us some strongholds, then that will be an immense advantage to her. I saw there in the chat, sorry I didn't spot who it was, somebody was asking about the gold and whether or not Cersei's gold covers this and the Iron Bank. My understanding of what happened there was that she was hugely in debt, so she got the gold, she paid off the debt. The very next minute, she took out a new debt. So that was what was going on. So she's in the exact same situation she was in before. She's still in debt to the Iron Bank, but she's now got an army. So that's what the upshot of all of it is. It's not that she's not got any left over now is the basic thing. She's used up all her cash getting this army.
Yeah, and that's it. Speaking from a little bit of experience, they love that. That is their type of client. Any type of bank that does, especially risky loans with high interest. They just paid back the other one, and now you got them on the hook again. Unfortunately, I work in a dirty business, but it does look like they have been citing castles and shooting locations that do have the large tower that Storm's End would have, and like you said, and she said it, because again, we're going off of stuff they've said in the show. She tells Jaime, she says, let all the monsters are real, let them kill each other and let's rule and take back the lands. We claim back our lands or whatever. So in Storm's End would probably, besides Castle Rock, and it'd probably be the best stronghold. I know Old Town is the largest, but I think that Storm's End would probably be the best stronghold in the South. Besides having, obviously King's Landing and all that, but King's Landing is that's like their mecca. That's their, like, they have their commerce and whatnot there as well. So you have the Red Keep, but Storm's End, I mean, we know from the books that it's a bitch to take, as Tyrell, who's not so pretty anymore. But yeah, so it does look like she'll be taking those back, and it'll be interesting because, I do see, we got 6 episodes. So just using common tropes, let's look at it. They're probably going to get attacked right away in the north. Right, as I'm assuming right away, because they're going to want to show us that, yeah, hey, it's only 6 episodes, but look at how cinematic this is, and look how this is going to be like this every episode. I imagine a very good first episode, especially a very good start to it. And I think that they're going to have a large fight with the dead right off the bat in the north. Dany, I'm talking everybody up there. Jaime will probably be, going and getting his people, because a large thing they're going to need to do if they're only going to have 6 episodes and consolidate, and that means putting people in groups, and this is going to be very easy for them to do. You're going to have Jaime going, I don't know how much of a night's watch there's going to be, but you're going to have your northern people and your southern people, so you're going to have a lot of grouping together, and mostly it's going to be in the north. And Cersei, if the Golden Company sticks with her, that's it. And then you have, again, which I do want to get into really quick, Melisandre, who you think she's going to come back with. But I do see them fighting the Night King, or at least the Army of the Dead right away. It goes all right, then it doesn't go so good. They need to rebuild. They will end up, because we still don't know. That's one of my big arguments when people are talking about, oh, they have 8,000 Unsullied. Jon had 2,000 Northmen before the Battle of the Bastards. Like, they can easily take out the Whites. They're stupid. It's like, well, the Whites, yeah, they're just like suicide bombers. Like, we have to understand that they're not fighting a convention. We don't even know what their motivation is yet, which is not too good. But you know what I mean? Like, everybody's like, oh, well, like, they're looking at it as they're going to be like shield wall against the Whites. No, I mean, the Night King, in my opinion, could have killed Jon 3 times already, at least twice, and he didn't. There's something's going on that hopefully they're going to explain well. I don't think we're going to see. It's not going to be like just, a battle like of attrition. if that makes sense. I think it's going to obviously be more than that. So I think that if we get that, it will be with the Golden Company against the survivors. But I don't think the Night King is going to go down there and be like, I need to take this stronghold and this stronghold. You know, I mean, he obviously is not your traditional conservative battle commander. He just does stare-offs on ice glaciers. And you know what I mean? Like, come on. He could have killed. Look at how he took out Drogon. So it's like a lot of people, these whites are just rolling down. I'm like, yeah, because it's like, we don't know. They're not, the Night King's not trying to get a lordship. He's not trying to get, you know, House Serwyn. He's not trying to get the last hearth or the gift. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what the motherfucker wants yet. It's my stream, so I'm gonna say fuck a lot. But yeah, you know, so I think it'd be interesting because then it follows the trope of what I was saying. Of you got your big battle, but then it's like your little tick in your actual character in your plot arc. It goes, escalates, and it goes down, and then a natural, it'll always tick right back up because that's like your diehard, your final villain that pops up again, and John McClane's got the gun behind his head. That could be the Golden Company. That could be Cersei. They defeat the Night King, or they do whatever. They have the meeting with him where he explains that he just wants them to take all their garbage dead people back or whatever he wants. And then they have to deal with one last obstacle because the moral of this story is they need to stop fighting to rule the world when they're destroying the world, essentially. So, I mean, Cersei losing is the, you know, solution to that. That is the lesson learned, in my opinion. I mean, do you think that's kind of sound? I mean, I don't see like the Night King like taking, you know, like I said, now he got the wall down, but I don't see him like inhabiting like you know, like the car hold or something. You know what I mean? He's not gonna like man up there. Oh, the Night King's got the car hold. He put his banners up, and that's not how this is gonna go. This is not gonna be a conventional battle. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the White Walkers are not there just trying to claim ground. They have got other things that they're trying to do. Now, my biggest fear for season 8 is that we're not going to be told exactly what this all is, and this is just going to turn out to be them being a big baddie army, maybe with some bit of backstory. But I think that it's really important in the books, and it will become incredibly important to see that they are heading somewhere. They're not just going south to try and kill people. They are actually heading somewhere. So yes, you're right. This is a different sort of battle. And one thing which is absolutely clear to me is that George R.R. Martin, who is a pacifist, is not going to end his story with, and then there was a big battle and that big battle solved everything. That is not how he is going to want to end this. He is going to want to show a different way. Now, what exactly that means for the show, I think, is still slightly up in the air. I think that, yes, one of the symbolic things has to happen to show that the struggle, the fight between people is causing huge amounts of damage. One of the symbolic things I think will have to happen is the Iron Throne will have to go. I can't see that is going to be able to survive after all of this, because the big moral, as you say, I don't think George R.R. Martin would see it like that, but one of the big messages is that wars are not good. It sounds like the most simple, obvious thing to say, but he is trying to show us this without actually having to tell us it, which is obviously the great storyteller's art.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this army is reinforced every single time they do fight each other. Every single time they kill each other. I'm not talking about the Night King. You know, they have created their own enemy. You know, it's the metaphor. They are their own worst enemy. And they truly are. I mean, yeah, they have killed some of these people, like we saw at Hardhome in the series in such. But, you know, like all the killing of the wildlings and stuff like that, that created a whole bunch of whites. You know, the White Walkers, again, yeah, I mean, 6 episodes, Dan and Dave. And let me tell you, in my opinion, the reason they're doing 6 episodes is because it's going to be very cinematic, yes, and there's going to be a lot of VFX, special effects, and whatnot, and they are spending a lot of money, but I think it's mostly because they only have directors for so long, and they can only get them for 1 episode, so they can't stream it out. So I don't, you know, like if it was going to be more character driven, we could get away with, like, you know, they probably would have done 8, but they're like, you know, we need Spagotnich or whatever his name is, you know, and we got to get these, we got to pump these out. And I don't really think they know how to stick the landing, and I don't really think George, I won't just say he does either, because let's face it, he's got 2 books to finish still, and he's writing pilots, and he's writing Targaryen lineage books. So, you know, I love George, but I'm not one of those people that just thinks he's got it all planned in his head. He knows the end game like they do, but getting to that end game, as we see, is, you know, can be pretty heavy-handed if not done correctly. What I really see, and, you know, what we have to look out for is when we talk about the subversion of tropes, like you were speaking to, you know, a lot of people, like, I think we can expect a happy wedding, maybe with Gendry and Arya, even though I don't even like that. But because at this point, a happy wedding in Game of Thrones is a subversion of a trope, because they have set the expectation for weddings to always end in death, sexual assault, are just terrible circumstances. Subverting a trope is not just being different from Lord of the Rings. It is subverting expectations within the series, within the constructs of the world they have set up. In this world we have been a witness to, we have not witnessed weddings that go well. So having people could look at it maybe on first glance, like, oh, this show's ending with like a happy wedding. It's like, this is just like everything else. It's like, well, no, it's actually not. You know, as we see, Honor has stopped getting people killed. He made sure to show every honorable person get killed in the first few seasons. And, you know, Jon, it gets him killed, but he gets a redo. But they have slowly started to show that Honor doesn't always get these people killed. It's like, you know, he has set up extremes. He has set up, you know, Ned Stark, who is just like so blinded by honor and stuff like that. But now we see the other Starks adapting and going and still using. Now they learn some techniques and stuff like that, but they're still doing the right thing. So we can't assume that like everybody that does the right thing is going to die. I think a lot of people think that like it's going to keep being like, because number one, I've said this before, I don't think I've seen a series ever that didn't have a bittersweet ending. It's a nice little catchphrase, but if you really think about it, bittersweet ending just means, man, that was good, but oh man, this happened. I mean, Breaking Bad, bittersweet. Mad Men, bittersweet. Every good series I've seen in the last 10 years, brother, The Shield, all bittersweet. I don't think I've seen a good television series that's worth talking about. Boardwalk Empire, The Sopranos, bittersweet. It's not that I'm not downing, and I love this show, obviously, but I think that everybody like expects like so much of this never seen before television. It's going to be bittersweet. That's every good television series. Name one good television series that didn't end bitter. Nothing ends with just flowers falling from the sky anymore, you know, except unless it's Westworld, and then that'll make no sense with the Valley Beyond. But yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how they portray them, and I think you're right that it's going to come down to just, do they break their code? Is Cersei that much of a demon? And also, Jorah served with them. Do you think he will have a role to play? Do you think he might try to convince them in any way? Because, I mean, if he served with them, I mean, like you said, these aren't the original Blackfires. I mean, they aren't too loyal to Lannisters. It wasn't that long ago that it was the Nine Penny King, where you've got Tywin Lannister was there. All of them were there killing Blackfires. So, I mean, that was only 35 or 36 years before the current events. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like House Lannister is a friend of the Golden Company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to pick up on this idea of bittersweet, I think one of the things I would say is that I agree completely with you. This is overused for Game of Thrones. It's the thing that everybody always says the ending is going to be bittersweet. I don't think that tells us much. For me, and I'm not going to get into it in detail here, I'm sure I've done a video on it somewhere, the thing I found a lot more interesting was when George R.R. Martin was asked about the ending, and he talks about the scouring of the Shire, which is the penultimate chapter of The Lord of the Rings. It wasn't in the films, but it was in the books. And he says if you want to have an understanding of the feel of the end of Game of Thrones, it's the feel of the scouring of the Shire that he is wanting to put across. And he thinks that that is, although lots of people don't like that chapter, he thinks it's a piece of amazing literature, and he loves it more each time he reads it. And so he's wanting some of that feel to be coming across into the ending of Game of Thrones. And there, as a very, very high-level version of what that is, it's the hobbits having come home. They've been affected by what they've done and achieved. They're coming back to this place that they think is this wonderful place that they've left, that should be as beautiful as they left it, and it's not. Some of the old baddies who hadn't been defeated in the big battle are there, and they have to do a final push to use everything that they've learned, everything that they now are, to try and reclaim where their homeland is, to try and make it as close to their homeland. But of course, they are not the same people who left it, and the place that they've come back to is not the same place that it was to start with. And so it is, the feeling there is that, how do we move forward from this? It's not ever going to be brilliant and perfect, but we have to make it as good as we possibly can and build on the things that we've got and learned and move forward from it. So that's the kind of feel. Can I just pick up quickly? There was a question that was in the chat that Laura D asked, which was about the Iron Bank, saying how much of a role do we think that Iron Bank has with this entire storyline? I think I set out already where the sort of the flow of the money went. I think that is probably in the show, probably it. I can't see that there's much of a need for them to be in there again. And I've heard Mark Gatiss, who obviously plays the Iron Bank representative, he said he's not in the season. So I think that really it's unlikely that they're going to have a significant role here. What I think would be interesting is what happens at the end, because the Iron Bank have a habit of rolling on the debt to whoever sits next on the Iron Throne. So it may currently be Cersei's debt, but if she's gone and somebody else at the end of it happens to be ruling the Seven Kingdoms, I could well imagine that the Iron Bank will come and say, oh, did you realize that the Seven Kingdoms have got this huge debt that you need to be paying back to us? So that, I think, will be quite interesting. But in terms of the show, no, I can't see the Iron Bank will have much of an extra role here. There may be a little cameo, there might be a few mentions, but I don't think it's going to be a significant role. This is going to be all about the White Walkers and that bit of the story, the big
we might get a few ravens saying like you can get like, you know, relief on your Iron Bank loans for this time if you get a raven back to us at time. But yeah, to assume that the Iron Bank, and like you said, the actor's not in there, so I mean, to assume the Iron Bank would play a role, a large role, would have to be assuming that Cersei wins, you know, because they would be then needing to collect from her. But it's interesting that you brought up well, a few things. I love the Hobbit, and we can kind of, I want to touch on that really quick, but with the Iron Bank, like you said, how they're always rolling over that debt, you know, maybe more sound fiscal approach would be to invest in the kingdom and invest in the actual, I know it sounds like, you know, I'm laying out some policy in the infrastructure, but you know what I mean? Like, invest in the kingdom. Don't just invest in the next asshole with a sword, with the biggest army and elephants or dragons, you know, like, let's invest in peace, not invest in conquest. And I think, you know, that's one, like you're talking about. It is very interesting. The token, you know, versus George, not in a bad way. It's interesting to me, especially because, you know, Token served at the Somme, the bloodiest battle in recent, I think, ever. And, you know, George, conscientious, whatever, he didn't go to Nam. And, you know, I'm not downing on him for it, but, you know, like, Token didn't make the bloody battles because he saw bloody battles. You know, George didn't go, you know, he wants to show the horrors of war. I'm not saying that he's glorifying it, because he's obviously not. And that leads me to my next point. I love what you said about they had to deal with things how they are. Let's just think about, like, George does such a good job of, like, even let's just say Jon gets a totally happy ending with Daenerys and, like, they beat everybody. Look at the situation. Number one, he keeps talking about how the North is who he is, and it will stay who he is. But when he does, I think that the significance of his lineage, of his parentage, is that, you know, he's going to have to be forced, just kind of like the Shire, to look at things completely differently. That, you know, this is all just flipped. His whole world is flipped. You know, I don't think he's going to try to be the king, but everything that he's kind of like built himself off of, you know, has been just kind of not a lie, but I mean, it's not been the case for sure. And it's going to be a difficult adjustment for I mean, look at everything that's gone through. I mean, not from Ned's death to Rob's death to all the death. You know, these families have been tortured and torn apart. So even if they win this battle, even if they win all the battles, it's not a dream ending, because I mean, it's a dream ending to a nightmare life, essentially. And Jon is going to be, I believe Jon will be the one to survive, just because you usually don't kill somebody, you know, twice. Beric, you know, if anything, I do want to add in Beric Dondarrion. Everybody keeps talking about Jon or Dany being the Princess Realm. It's like, I've been brought back 5 times. Like 5. Nobody's taking note of this. Like, I mean, I don't think he's, you know, I don't really think there is one, but I would be having an argument if I was like, I've been brought back 5 times. Everybody's worshiping this guy and this girl who's never even been killed, by the way. And I've been killed all the time, and nobody's giving me any hype because I'm not as good looking as Kit Harington. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be a little bit more just jury, because he's going to have to look at his life in a completely different way. Most likely Dany's not going to be alive. Spoiler alert. I do see Dany getting out of this alive. I don't see a lot of people getting out of this alive. And I will throw in one more conspiracy theory. Do you think Sansa could be the one to kill Cersei? And that could technically fulfill the Valonqar. If Sansa goes and does it, because Sansa has to do something. Her arc, they have fucked up so much that they have to do something with her. She has to use her skill set. She can't just dye her hair and then fuck up again. She has to like really do it this season. Like, this is her last chance. They've been building and building and dropping the ball. Do you think that Sansa's got the redemption arc?
I don't think Sansa needs to be redeemed. I think Sansa is a symbol of so much of what was wrong with the incredibly patriarchal system that they had over in Westeros. So she was there. She was sold off to a man who, it turns out, was absolutely horrible. She was abused.
Tyrion? Tyrion was all right.
Leaving Tyrion aside, but if you go through what she had to go through, you see that she had a horrific time, and her path is not one of redemption. Her path is one of claiming control of herself. And so she goes through and she gets to the point where she is Lady of Winterfell, and that is where she has to end up. And the other element of her character arc that needs to come through is for her to recognize the internal as being more important than the external. She's pretty much there, but I think the symbolic thing of that will be when she meets up again with Tyrion, because Tyrion, when she was down with Tyrion, she found him repulsive because she didn't like what he looked like. But actually, Tyrion's, yeah, he's not perfect, but he's a pretty stand-up guy in many ways, and certainly a lot better than the other men that were in her life at the time. And I think that when she meets up again with Tyrion, that is the point that her character arc is going to come full circle, and she will accept and understand the fact that actually he was a better husband to her than Joffrey would have been, or certainly better than Ramsay Bolton was, and also better than Littlefinger, who was obviously also trying to be her husband. So that's her character arc. She doesn't need to be redeemed. She is a wronged person, and I think that we need to stop treating her as somebody who somehow has to work her way back up because of bad things she's done. She's not done bad things. She's been abused and oppressed all the way through it, and finally she's taken control of herself.
He just laid it down on me. No, I do love Sansa, and you are correct. I am thinking more, and that is all very true. I am thinking more for the general audience, because I do believe that. I've done a video on how much I love Sansa, so there's a lot of Sansa haters out there. I will challenge you with this. And I agree about Tyrion, because he did what a life partner is supposed to do. He cared for her when it didn't benefit him by any means. by any means benefit him. He protected her when it risked his life, and he was always good to her, and he did it without lust. He did it without ambition for power. And, I don't necessarily see that they're going to be hooking up or whatever, but I think, yes, I think she's already come to these realizations and stuff like that. But I think that the big thing is, Sansa wanted to be a princess. She found out what being a princess was like. Now, Arya wanted to be a warrior. And now I think the show has shown no signs of letting up on just rewarding her, murdering her, sociopathic, she's a murderer. She's not a role model. I think that, this story is about how, solving your problems with a sword, solving your problems with bloodshed is not the way to go. But Arya Stark is a superhero. You know what I mean? In the books, it's even worse. She kills that kid that didn't laugh at her joke. She's a bad person. Yeah, she's been through bad stuff, but hey, we all got our foibles, man. You can't just start making lists. Do you think that Arya is going to make it, because it's a version of this trope would be her becoming a princess with Gendry. And then the Blackfyres backing him and being, because you're a bastard. And that was our whole thing. And let us do a quick 10 minutes of exposition here about what we're about from the wiki page. But yeah, I agree. No. Sansa doesn't need to be, people need to redeem themselves for their poor judgment on Sansa, if anything. But okay, just 2 questions and you can erase all that and we'll start to get to the end. And somebody did mention about, I am looking forward to that Amazon Lord of the Rings. But I'm holding back. I got to see how that's being put together before I get too excited, because I think a lot of people are throwing money at a lot of things these days because they see the success of Game of Thrones, and there's been a lot of flops. And I think it'll do well. It better. They paid a lot of money for it. But yeah, I think that, do you think that Arya will pay the consequences? And I mean pay the consequences, not going out as some badass, like just getting killed, like maybe just for what she's done. She's a murderer. And do you think that we might get like a fairy tale ending with her? Do you think that Sansa will have any issue with Jon bringing back Dany? So Arya, will she get what's coming to her in my book? And do you think that Sansa, since she don't need nobody telling her that she's okay, gonna say it's okay for Jon to be bringing home that Targaryen girl?
Yeah, well, first on Lord of the Rings, I'm also very excited about the show. I think, though, that we need to stop thinking about it as the Lord of the Rings show. It's not going to be Lord of the Rings. It's going to be set in Middle-earth and probably before Lord of the Rings. So it's not a redo of the story. So I will definitely be covering it on my channel when it comes out. But they've only just appointed writers, so that's at least a couple of years away, I suspect.
They paid so much money and they didn't have writers. I'm sorry, but that's insane to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it is insane. So they threw $500 million at it without having a clear understanding of what the product was going to be, who the writers are. They didn't have any actors on board. They didn't have anything. They just bought what they knew was going to be a property that people will tune in and watch. I will definitely tune in and watch, and I know everybody's going to tune in and watch because it's Lord of the Rings, and we love that. So yes, it's at least, I think, going to look good, because if you've got that kind of budget, that's the very least that it's going to be, is it's going to look good. But you're asking about
they paid for attention, at least. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're asking about Arya. For me, Arya's story arc, it comes out a lot more in the books than on the show, but there are 2 themes. One of the themes is about identity, and she's starting to come back to that as her identity as being Arya Stark. She has so many different names, so many different identities that she has to reclaim who she is. But also there's this theme of death, and I think in the books, she will probably end up, if not dead, then I suspect she might well end up being warged into Nymeria, her wolf, and that is just about her loss of identity into another, and also the wolf, the dire wolf, being a killing machine, as it were. So I could certainly see that happening on the show. I really, really, really hope they don't go with a fairy tale thing of her becoming a noble lady. That's not who she is. That wasn't who she was before she went off and became Psycho Killing Girl. Certainly isn't who she is now. She is there doing her kill list, and once she has done her kill list, that is the moment at which she will have achieved that thing, and then she's going to look around. If she's still alive, she's going to look around and go, well, what next? Her answer to that is not, you know what, I think I might marry a nice boy and live in a castle. That's not who she is. So I like the idea that she might get in a boat and sail west. I like the idea that she might go back to the Faceless. This is in the book, on the show, not in the books. Might go back to the Faceless Men. So I just cannot see her as a character settling down to be this noble princess in any way. It just isn't her.
Yeah, I mean, her motivation has always been to be, well, I mean, to be a warrior, but also, I guess, strong-willed. And the Starks, like I've said before, it's almost like, you know, like when they're chipping away at these like great like pieces of art and statues, you know, you got to have your strong stone so it can take the chipping and it can be formed. That's what the Starks are. Their honor is so deep that they all have gone away. Arya has literally become no one. Jon has been he's been killed. Sansa's been pretty much, probably wishes she was killed at a lot of points. You know what I mean? But they are made of hard enough stock to be able to take the molding and mold them into these people. So it's like, who do you mold Arya into? You know, I mean, again, like, I don't think that she's going to be, well, now I want a boyfriend or anything like that. You know, I think there is a little foreshadowing for Gendry. It's not something I really don't like Arya. I don't like her much in the books. I don't like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Her sword fighting's cool. I did my mashup of it. I mean, yeah, those are cool scenes. I'm not a fucking robot. But I mean, the message doesn't match the show. Her motivations and her actions and her arc don't match the theme of the show, in my opinion. So I have an issue. I mean, no matter how it goes, I don't think it's going to go great. I see them having her go out in a blaze of glory with a bunch of White Walkers. And that's, you know, I don't know. I mean, they should be showing that blood feuds are the reason they're in this situation. So you shouldn't go make and kill this, but it is what it is. The last one, and then I know that you're a busy man. And we are just about to be at the hour point. I want to know if you think that Sansa is gonna like Jon bringing home that hussy, because that's probably gonna be the first scene. You know, I mean, he's king of the North. If they're getting married, then she might not be in the best position. You know, that could mess with her whole status as the Lady of Winterfell. I don't know how she's gonna. You know, there's already been tension with her. Do you think that there's a possibility of Sansa turning on Jon? Because if you do, you should make a video like everybody else has and get 1 million views, even though it's probably not going to happen. But that's what's been going around. Sophie Turner said in an interview that there's a lot of backstabbing and there's a lot of surprises, and everybody's like, that means she's going to kill Jon or Dany for sure. I'm like, that's Game of Thrones. She described the show. But do you think that she's going to take issue with this? I don't think they're going to have a lot of time. I think the dead people are going to come, but do you think that there's going to be conflict?
Well, yeah, there will be conflict. The first episode, possibly 2 episodes, is all about the iteration of who arrives at Winterfell and when. When's Jaime going to arrive up there? When's Jon going to get there? When is Jon going to discover? If he does discover, everybody seems to be assuming that Daenerys is going to be pregnant. If she is pregnant, will she tell Jon before or after he gets told about his real ancestry and things like that? So a lot of these things, it's quite a complex jigsaw to pull together. What I would say is that the Northern Lords will not be happy. The Northern Lords will be going, hang on a moment, we made you King of the North because you were Ned Stark's son. You're not Ned Stark's son. And we don't like Targaryens. And A, you're a Targaryen. And B, you brought the Targaryens up here with you. So they are not going to be happy, and they will see Sansa as being their champion, as it were. So I think that that is where the tension will be, is that they will want her to be taking on this role. But I think that the most likely thing is that there will be a clear separation of powers, and however they do this, whether or not they do make her officially Lady of Winterfell or not, she will be in charge of the administration, as it were, of Winterfell, actually looking after what's going on. She's already been doing an excellent job there. She's the person who's actually thinking about bringing in all the food to make sure actually the normal people can eat. So she's going to be in charge of all of that side of things, and I suspect we'll probably keep half an eye on what's going on down with Cersei. And then Jon is going to be going off and doing all the fighting and heroic battle stuff. So that's what's going to happen. But at a high level, yes, obviously the actors are going to big up all of this kind of conflict and the rest of it. At a high level, everybody's going to descend on Winterfell. There's going to be huge amounts of different meetups with different people. People aren't going to be happy. There's not only have we got dragons, we've got Dothraki and people arriving up there as well. They're going to get there at some point. Jaime will turn up. Perhaps, I think you mentioned it a bit ago, perhaps with a Lannister army that he picks up in the Riverlands. If so, then what happens there? Are they going to trust him? There's going to be huge amounts of this. But then the army of the dead, the White Walkers, are going to be there. And at that point, everything else has to take second place, because at that point they have to say, can we not just forget about this for a moment, given the fact that there's tens of thousands of ice zombies coming at us? That's really what it is. And so we'll get the first hint of that. They did kind of foreshadow this with the Last Hearth and the Carhold. They are going to fall. I suspect maybe even Castle Black. Maybe the Night King will sort of sweep across and do that as well. But we'll hear about these other places, perhaps, rather than see them falling to the Night King, and then they will appear at Winterfell. And when they appear at Winterfell, there will still be ongoing tensions within that group of people there, but the focus has to be on the fight and the battle. So that's how I see broadly that bit panning out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just that's how the story is going to work, because I can see what you're saying. I can see Sansa I can see a divide in people going over to Sansa and affecting Jon negatively, but Sansa actually, because nothing brings people together like a common enemy, and this isn't even just a fellow, this isn't a rival house. This, again, we have to remember that a lot of these whites are actually products of their own wars. So this is literally they created this. And the way the White Walkers were created, which we saw, were because of the children of the forest fighting the first men. So we see that this is all they caused all these problems. So if they don't like Targaryens, if they don't like when they find out that Maury, whoever Maury is in Westeros, tells them that Jon isn't, really Ned's his uncle, not his dad, and they get all pissy for a moment. As soon as the army of the dead starts knocking on the door after they take over Moat Cailin, because they want that mercantile money, man, they want to get that commerce. Not Moat Cailin, White Harbor, where yeah, there we go. Yeah, Moat Cailin's just good for strategic. But I'm telling you, they got banners and everything. He made them up. But yeah, when the army of the dead shows up, it's gonna be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go and just fight with the people that are breathing normally and aren't zombies. And especially I don't mind the Targaryen so much now that she's got a dragon, especially since that psychopath has a dragon as well. So yeah, I mean, nothing brings people together like a common enemy, and nothing makes people reflect on their poor choices like their poor choices trying to literally kill them. I look at it as him bringing all their garbage that they threw in his lawn and being like, this is yours. All these whites are yours. Take care of it. I'm sick of it. And you created me. And Sam, give me the baby back. That's actually what this is all about. So yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think that it's, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of, I think that the sympathy and empathy we're supposed to feel for the Night King has already been shown to us. And they think that that's enough, that they were created by the children of the forest. And that's a shit deal. That's not great. But also, I kind of want to know what his motivations are. I kind of want to know why this is happening now, but he doesn't really speak. I don't really see a lot of time for him. I don't really know how they're going to do that. I think that it's going to be a up and down battle, and then you're going to deal with Cersei. I do predict that the Golden Company does not cooperate with Cersei, though. I do think they will. I think it'll speak volumes for the story for Cersei to really get it stuck to her with that. They're like, well, we're breaking our in the show, in the books, we've already broke some contracts, but we're going to break our first contract with you because you're that bad of a queen. You know, I think that's the arc with that. And yeah, you know, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that they could still do a lot of winks and nods to us with the Golden Company, though. And they might even say, hey, Justin, remember, bastards, we're all about the bastards and we're all about getting home. So we're going to go over here to Storm's End. I think that there's a lot of opportunity with the Golden Company, and Dan and Dave might be able to pull something out of their ass that isn't Beyond the Wall, the worst episode in the world. That they're so proud of, with all the characters that have never been on screen together. I'm like, watching that interview sickens me. And we've never had these people on, because it doesn't make logical sense. That's why they've never been there. So they put them all beyond the wall and have them fight on a rock. So I hope that they stick the landing a little better. I don't think George is too invested in it. I don't even think he does anything with the show anymore. But I think that it's going to be exciting television, to say the least. I mean, it's going to be beautiful at the very least. But yeah, let us know if you guys have any more questions. Robert, again, if you guys have not seen his second channel, if you like the way Robert speaks, which a lot of you do, and I do as well, he tells a story really well because he understands stories. He understands the actual emotion and the emotional beats behind stories. So he's not just, you know, somebody that's reading clearly. He's invoking emotion because he enjoys stories, and you can really tell with his channel. And I personally enjoy it. And I mean, I War of the Worlds, I haven't heard in forever, and I'm loving it. So when I was editing one of my mashups, I actually had your audio came over and fucked up my music. So I almost kept it in there, and I was going to charge it. But no, I can't recommend it enough. Robert's one of the best in the business. I hope to keep doing some Game of Thrones stuff. I do have a video coming out about the Hand of the Kings throughout time, and I started to put together a little presentation today for the Blackfire. Just a short explanation of how they actually started with Bittersteel and Aegon the Fourth of his name, and Aegon the Unworthy. So I'm looking to put out more Game of Thrones stuff, the mashup stuff, and eventually, once I can make Westworld content in a healthy manner without having my brain just go insane and start to hurt, I will have some more Westworld videos out, but had to take a little break. But thank you, Robert, for coming on. Let everybody know where you can be found. I want to thank everybody here. Your support means the world. And yeah, you know, I'm growing and I appreciate it. I put a lot of work into what I do. And, you know, I really appreciate the people that can see that. So it means the world. And it means the world to have people like Robert on my channel. So that's my plug. And Robert, go away, and then we will let you go on, because this man's a busy man. It's Friday night.
Well, thank you, Justin. That very kind words. As I say, I love coming on your channel because it's you know, we worked very closely when we were doing Westworld, and I love that we can carry on talking about Game of Thrones as well during the Westworld off season. My two channels are, the first one is called In Deep Geek. If you've not checked it out, then I cover Game of Thrones, Westworld, and a few other things as well that when they come up. I try and do insight and intelligent debate. So I have live streams, I do theory videos, and literally while we've been on air, then the latest of my Traveller's Guide to Westeros has gone live as well. So if you're interested in that, please go and check that out. My second channel that Justin was just talking about right now is called The Well Told Tale. This is a new channel. Getting
linked right now.
Something I'm very excited about, and it is me effectively reading audiobooks. We're starting with the War of the Worlds. We're 4 episodes in, and then after the War of the Worlds, we're going to do Frankenstein, and then we're going to move our way through all of the classics of science fiction and fantasy. And if you'd like that, I would love for you to go and check that channel out as well.
Are you going to be able to do Token? Just a little side. question?
No. So to start with, I'm doing public domain things, which still leaves us a huge amount of excellent stuff. As we saw, it costs $500 million to get the rights to do stuff with Tolkien's estate. So I don't currently have $500 million, so I'm not going to be able to afford to do Tolkien for the time being.
I got you, brother.
No, sorry. What the aim for the channel is that I will be hopefully building up a little bit of a war chest, so I can start buying rights to some more recent books. But I'm always open to ideas of new new books, or better books, or great books that people want to hear read to them. So yeah, please do check out The Well Told Tale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I linked it twice down below. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it was past the amount of time for the rights, but I think his son's got the control of that. So yeah, but check it out. I mean, you can't hear the classics enough, honestly. I mean, I love the whole saying that there's only 7 narratives, because it really is true. They're just told in different ways. So the classics are what all the stuff that we love now is built off of anyways. And a lot of times, you know, essentially what we're watching now is just a cheap rip-off. So yeah, I linked it. Go over there, and thank you guys. I'll have some more videos coming out. Thank you for your continued support, and I believe Robert will either be on his own channel in a few hours or Secret of the Citadel. I don't know, I gotta look at the guide, but yeah, check us all out, and thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon.